So this past Monday was Labor Day. Hopefully you guys had a great Labor Day hanging out with your family. You had the day off school, which is awesome. And so occasionally I get curious about really random facts. And so I turn to my favorite place when I get curious about really random facts, and I Google all kinds of stuff. It's like my thing, right? And so I Googled, what is Labor Day? How was it started? What does it mean? And so, long story short, it started as a celebration of the work that people do. And so a bunch of unions got together and they appealed to states, and then a few states said, yeah, we want to make this a holiday, and then it became a national holiday. And so now we celebrate this idea of work. This entire month, we're going to be talking about work. I know that some of you have jobs that you go to on a weekly basis or a few days throughout the week, and you get paid for the time that you are there on that job doing the work. You get paid by the hour. Some of you do some work at home and you do some chores, and your parents are like, if you do the chores, then you get X amount of dollars and we'll pay you for that. Some of you just have chores to do just because you have chores to do. But all of you experience work in the form of school. And so we all have this relationship with work, but it's this really weird relationship that we have with work, because Labor Day celebrates work. We recognize that work is important, work is valuable, work is something that is a part of our society and a necessary part of our society. But oftentimes, for us, work can become nothing more than a means to an end, a necessary means to an end. And so we start off in high school and we get this job, and we get a job not to work, but because we want to have money to hang out with friends. And as you get older in life, you get another job so that you can have food and you can eat and you can have a house and shelter or an apartment or whatever. And your goal is that you work enough throughout life that you can get to the end of your life and retire and not work anymore. And we have this really interesting relationship with work. In one instance, we celebrate it. We recognize that it's valuable. It's something that we need. It's something that we should be a part of our lives. And in another instance, our entire goal is to work hard enough that we don't have to work anymore. And so what I want to talk about this month is how we relate to work. Because the truth is, how you relate to work is vitally important to the fulfillment you experience in life. I want to say that again. How you relate to work is vitally important to the fulfillment you experience in life. Let me explain. Everyone in this room relates to work. And so we can have this relationship with work where it is a necessary means to an end. The only reason that we do any sort of work at all is just to get it done. We do it as quick as we can. And that's pretty much all we do. Or we can have a relationship with work, which is a relationship with work that God designed. And a relationship with work the way God designed it, which involves work and rest and creating things and being productive, leads to this fulfillment in life. In the book of Genesis, God is creating the earth. Many of you have heard this verse probably more times than you can count. Genesis chapter 1, starting in verse 1, in the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. And it says, now the earth was without form, and it was void, and darkness was over the face of the deep, and the Spirit of God was hovering over the face of the water, and God said, let there be light, and there was light. This creation story where God creates the earth, and I'm not going to read all the verses, but you could go through the days where he creates light, and then he creates sky and water and then ground and plants and animals. And at the end, he creates humankind. And if we dig into where he creates humankind and what he created this original first human beings, the original first human beings, to do, we can get an idea of what we were created to do and how we were created to work. Look in Genesis chapter 2. Genesis chapter 2, verse 15. After God has created everything, he said it's very good. It says, the Lord God took the man and put him in the Garden of Eden to work it and keep it. To put him in the Garden of Eden to work it and keep it. You see, here's the truth. You and I were created to work. God created this desire inside of us. God created us with gifts and talents and abilities to do work. And a lot of times we look at work as this awful thing that we have to do so we can have fun. And God said it doesn't necessarily have to be that way. You see, when God created the first man and woman, he created them in this perfect area. And he created them in this perfection to do work. Now, I don't know about you guys, but when I think about Adam and Eve in the garden, and I think about if I were there and I were experiencing life to perfection, I think about, hanging out with some awesome animals, right? In the Garden of Eden. I would be spending time rolling around with lions and just petting their manes, right? I would be leaning back in a hammock on a beautiful, sunny but cool day, eating the most perfect piece of fruit that I have ever experienced in my life, right? I picture Adam and Eve, if I were there, just walking in the cool of the day with God and just hanging out and just chilling with God. This is what I picture perfection like. You know what I don't picture in the life that it would be perfect? Work. Right? I don't think any of us would be like, dude, in my perfect life, you know what I would do? I would go to work. Right? No one says that, because in our culture, what we want to do is we want to work so that we can get out of work and have fun. But in the way that God created us originally, we were created to have this balance where we are working. We were created to work. And we have to recognize that work is good. And work comes from God. And work is something that we were created to do. And it adds to fulfillment. And you guys have experienced this. You've experienced the fulfillment that work brings. For me, our garden this year has become slightly overrun, very much so overrun, due to injuries and sickness and COVID and all kinds of other stuff. Our garden has just kind of gotten away from us, which is so not like us at all, right? And so we have weeds growing up everywhere. Our plants that should be growing have not been trimmed. They're going crazy. And so when we got done with COVID this last week, we went out to our greenhouse and we just started tearing stuff out. I mean, we were ripping out tomatoes and all kinds of stuff, ripping out weeds. We made this huge pile, threw it all to the chickens, and we went back through and we planted a new fresh crop of lettuce and spinach and radishes and all kinds of stuff that's going to grow throughout the winter in our greenhouse so that we can have food. And it was so incredibly fulfilling to watch a garden space go from completely overrun, completely overgrown, completely out of control to back the way it's supposed to be. And something that is going to produce something that is good. Now, you guys have experienced that in your own life. You've experienced that moment where you take that last book of homework and you set it on the pile and you're like, I'm done, right? You've experienced that moment where you are creating a project, you're creating a craft, you're creating a video, you're doing a drawing, and you've worked at it, and you've worked at it, and if you're honest, even though it's fun, it's still work, and you put the finishing touches on it, and you take a step back, and you look at it, and you're like, wow, that's awesome. And we've experienced the fulfillment that work can bring in our own lives. And that is the way that God created us to experience work. But oftentimes we experience work in ways that are not quite so fulfilling. Like when your parents say, go clean your room. That's not something super exciting, right? Or when that teacher says, all right, I'm going to give you like 4 pages of homework tonight. And you've already got homework in 3 other classes. That's not super exciting or fulfilling. Or when you've got to go and you've got to mow your yard in 100-degree weather. Like that's not super fulfilling, right? And so we face this idea where work is something that should be fulfilling. God created it in perfection, but we experience work that is not that. How does that happen? And it all goes back to Adam and Eve again. And when they sinned and they messed up and they didn't follow God, Genesis chapter 3, I won't read all of this because it's like crazy long and my eyes are starting to gloss over at the amount of text that I would need to read up there anyway. But you can read it if you want. But basically, when Adam and Eve sinned, work became hard. God said to Adam, listen, your one job was to work the garden. Now there's going to be thistles, there's going to be thorns, there's going to be weeds, it's going to be difficult. You're going to eat the fruit of your labor still, but it's going to be by the sweat of your brow. It's going to be tough. And so we experience this side of work where work is now hard. Work is now something that is difficult. Work is now something that was created in perfection, created to be this incredibly fulfilling thing, but now it's been marred and messed up by sin, and we experience it on this side where it's just hard. And so, to bring it all the way back around to where we started, what's the right way for us to relate to work? Because we experience some work that is fulfilling, and we enjoy doing projects. We maybe enjoy working outside. Maybe there are some chores that you do enjoy doing, but there's also some work that we do that is not super fulfilling. And we experience the difficulty, and we experience the frustration of it. And so how do we appropriately, in the world that we live in now, relate to work? We're going to talk this month about working as you are working for the Lord. And we are going to talk about this month the balance of work and rest. And we are going to talk about how important it is to work hard, but also not let work control your life and allow yourself to take a break and to rest and recuperate and God's design and all of that. But tonight, I simply want to focus here in the fact that we were created to work. And even when we get to retirement age, God still created us to work, to do things, to create things. And yes, work is hard. And so how we start this relationship with work is twofold. We have to realize it's good. We were created for it. And we have to realize that even though it's hard, it's worth it. We try to help our kids understand this concept that difficult things that take work, are often the things that are absolutely worth doing. And so the phrase that we use over and over and over and over and over again at our house is difficult things, things worth doing are going to be difficult. Things worth doing are going to be hard. They're going to be difficult. Things worth doing are going to be difficult. They're going to be hard. It's going to be tough. You're going to have to work at it. But guess what? If it's worth doing it, it's worth putting in the work. And God created you to put in that work and to do what you do and to do it well. You were created to work. You were created for this idea of fulfillment. And the truth is that if we refuse to do work because it's hard, we will miss out on an incredible, fulfilling life that God has planned for us. Let me say that again. If we refuse to do work because it's hard, we are going to miss out on an incredible, fulfilling life that God has planned for us. Because things worth doing are going to be hard. Things worth doing are going to be difficult, and they're going to take work. But the good news is we were created to work. We were created to do difficult things. We were created to make a difference in this world. We were created to go out and use our gifts and abilities and to shine bright no matter what we are doing. We were created for work. And so I have a practical challenge for you this week. These practical challenges this month are going to be challenging, more challenging than normal. And my practical challenge for you this week is this. I want you to go to your parents, and I want you to take a deep breath, and I want you to say, I was created to work. Give me a job to do today. I want to help around the house. I was created to work. Give me a job to do. And in the midst of experiencing the fear and anxiety of what your parents may say next, I want you to remind yourself, I was created for this. I was created to be a part of this family. I was created to go out and do this job, to make a difference. And I can find fulfillment even in difficult things. And we can find fulfillment even when work is hard and things are difficult because God created us to work. Check this out.